All right. KO family. Hey, 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 hey. All right. We are on. We are live. Tonight, I see you guys see that we ain't got no countdown tonight because we're going to get right into this conversation. Let me know that you guys are on here. Let me know that you're here. I'll say a few hellos before we get started. All right. Kathy, I see you on here. Hey, hey. Carl, what's going on, man? Raven, hey, hey. All right, do me a favor as you guys are jumping on too as well, because like I said, we usually do a countdown, but go ahead and press that share button, get it out so that everybody knows that we are on tonight and that we're live and we are going forward in this as we continue in our series called The Unmasking. All right. All right. So I see, yep, Carl. All right. I see some more of y'all jumping on. Continue to share this. And I'm going to not spend too much time. Wife, what's going on? Hey, hey. All right. I see Prophetess Ayana. Hey, hey. All right, y'all. And as we are getting ready to go into this, David, what's going on, man? How are you? Cynthia Matthews, hey, hey. All right. Kentucky, Natasha, hey, hey. Kentucky family's on the night. You live tonight. I see you've been pressing replay lately. But I see that you're all here tonight. Good to see you on here. All right. All right, y'all. Like I said, continue to share this, and we're going to get started. I'm going to talk a little bit too as well before I bring on my guests. Listen, I'm excited. Have you guys been blessed? Hope you guys been blessed all month long about our series that we've been doing called The Unmasking. We've had guests on from all over. We had our own Prophet Darrell Robinson on. We've had on Apostle Shell all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Pastor Joe Lewis, who pastors right here in Woodstown, New Jersey. Pastor Psyche Wilcox that pastors in Camden, New Jersey. So we're just grateful for all of our guests, everyone that's been coming on, those that have been sharing, those that have been just giving in some information that we've done with spiritually and practically on Wednesday nights. But I hope you guys have been blessed by it Sunday morning too, as well as we've been digging into a lot of different things concerning where the spirit of racism comes from, different things that we've been talking about, things that we've been laboring into. And I pray that you guys have been blessed and it's been really kind of shaking you to your core to realize really what we're fighting against and really understand what we must do to make sure that we're doing our part in the vineyard God's called us to. Okay. Real quick, few announcements. We'll bring our guest on. Okay. So don't forget this weekend, Friday. Okay. Friday is the first time we are gathering all together on a Friday night. We're basically doing it outside. Okay. So this is the first time we come together since March that we're going to try to do something outside. We're going to have our worship celebration this Friday. Basically, we're asking everyone to wear masks if you are coming. But we're just really excited to be able to see everyone's faces and allow you to be able to enjoy our worship team on Friday night. They'll be having prayer out there outside at 5 o'clock, right on the hill. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to go right into it. All right, Prophet Darrell, what's going on, man? All right. And then also, too, as well, on Saturday, do not forget about Saturday, our online women's conference. Please do not forget about that. In the midst of the shift, you can still register even now on Eventbrite. Again, it's $30. Not a lot at all. Apostle Teresa Hawkins, Pastor Grace Kaswaba, all the way from Zimbabwe, Africa, is a part of it. Psalmist Jenny Weaver is a part of it. Our own evangelist Lonnie and our own prophetess Ayana. And then we also have a table talk at the end too as well. So listen, do me a favor. Make sure you get registered for that. Again, it is Saturday. It starts at 10 o'clock, ends at 2. But again, if you cannot get on immediately at that time, you will still have access to it after the fact. Okay. So don't think that if you can't get on it at that time, we'll still give you access as long as you register. Hey, 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 Tamika. All right. So we'll bring on our guest. I'm going to introduce him first and foremost. A lot of you, I believe, do know him. I appreciate him. The first time I met him, it's been a year. I met him actually last year, this time in the month of June at Fire Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I met him, it was actually it was after the service at dinner. And when I had the chance to meet him, sometimes when you meet people, it seems like you've known them for a long time, even though it may be the first time that you're meeting them. And so I just love this man's disposition, the kind of character he just carries on. Let me rewind that. I met him too before dinner. I met him, actually ended up sitting next to each other in service. That's how that happened. That's right. That happened first before dinner time. So ended up sitting next to him during service at the conference. And just him and his wife were just great people to be around. San Antonio, I'll tell you guys, All Nation San Antonio, you guys have a jewel for a pastor and pastors there at the church. And I'll say this too as well. He blessed me in his class. He doesn't know this, and I've not told him this, but there's something that we have now adapted into our church of something that he said in our class. Those that are on KO will know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is the reason why I call him the historian, because he said something in his class about the Oriki. And when he said that, that thing just stirred my spirit so much so that he talked about the fact of how newborn baby, they whisper into the ear, and then also the community now knows, basically I'm paraphrasing real quickly, of what the child's supposed to be and all that. So they make sure they all rear the child together. And that stuck with me, and it still sticks with me. And it's something that's a staple in our church now, because now what we do as a church now, not only just in christenings, but when people give their lives to the Lord, when people get saved, absolutely, the class was bananas. When people get saved, not only do we walk them through salvation, but I also ask the Lord to give me a word concerning them that the church will be responsible for. So we took that principle, adapted into our church, as not just as newborns that come in, but newborns that get saved. So this is the man that we can credit for that, for hearing that teaching. I appreciate him greatly. One day I'll send you the tithe for that. All right. Appreciate you greatly, man. But we're going to bring him on right now. None other than Apostle Kevin Duhart out of All Nations San Antonio. Sir, can you hear me okay?
I'm good. I can hear you just fine. Hello,
Okay, cool.
everybody.
I never told you about that, man. We done took that thing and
Ah,
ran with it.
wow, that's beautiful, man. I got it from a book actually sitting on my desk. The
Okay.
Ready for Revolution by Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
Yeah,
a
yeah.
historian. You're a historian. So I appreciate you because you're one of the people I definitely want to bring on. When I reached out to you,
Wow.
you know, you really spoke when you spoke at the conference. You really spoke to me. And also, we're bringing him in for Converge too as well, y'all. So y'all gonna be able to
Yeah,
hear him preach.
yeah,
Okay. Right now, he's just gonna
yeah.
talk to us a little bit. But I just love your heart, your disposition, but also I love teaching apostles that also move in the gifts. Right. I love
Mhm.
all of that. That's kind of our vein, and I love that. And so one of the things I've been realizing, I've been paying attention to some of the series that you're doing, and I love the thing you did with us. That was just wonderful. How you guys lay that out. But I've been seeing something that you've been kind of putting on Facebook. We've been talking about unmasking the belly of America, dealing with everything that's going on, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, all these things that are happening. And we've been
Mhm.
dealing with the fact on Wednesday nights about dealing with these things from the level of spirituality, but also from practicality, right? We've been
Right,
talking about the
right.
fact that certain things we got to do on the practical side, fill out our census, vote, all the
Yeah.
things that we need to do, protesting, all that. But before I kind of labor to any kind of questions, I want you to kind of talk about a little bit who you are. And then secondly, I've been seeing you post something about talking about staying on topic. I've
Hmm.
been seeing you say that a lot. And I kind of want you, after you introduce yourself, to kind of talk about what you've been saying concerning that and why you think it's important for us to stay on topic. Because I've been seeing different people of faith kind of getting off topic, talking about
Hmm.
things that really don't matter. And when we start getting into those things, it's almost like Colin Kaepernick. They got off topic, right? They try to
Hmm.
drive it to a different narrative. So if you can kind of just talk about that after you introduce yourself, and then we'll just kind of go into some questions. I'll let you go.
Well, first of all, Apostle Des, man, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this opportunity to share with all these beautiful people. Appreciate that, man. Really do, and appreciate the nod and also the intro. It's beautiful, man. Um, Hail out of San Antonio. Been here all my life. Traveled the world, but I've been here my entire life. Our church originally was called the Rock Fellowship, and about 9 years ago, sorry, about a year ago, on our ninth anniversary, I had been walking with Apostle Stevenson as it pertains to helping him build and plant, and helping him uh, um, from a network level, an affiliate level. I was a part of that, and then that thing began to grow, and then we merged our stories together for the sake of building the kingdom. So I'm excited about building with him and building with those brothers and sisters across the nation on all nation campuses. So we originally were a Rock Fellowship. Then a year ago almost, we became All Nation San Antonio,
Right.
and it's been a journey since then, man. It's been good though. When you talk about staying on topic, man, that's dear to me now because historically in America, especially as and I'm gonna use phrases and verbiage from the 60s and I kind of interchange with 2020. But if you look at the plight of the Negro in America over time, you're looking at every time that a voice was championed in our community, what happened in mainstream media is the bait and switch. So we'd give you something to focus on,
Right.
and then whenever persons were possibly becoming sympathizers of a movement or begin to champion a righteous cause with oppressed the marginalized people, the strategic plan was to bait and switch. They would do that by imagery. They would do that by championing something that had nothing to do with the movement, or perhaps I don't know, maybe a barrage of a parade of thoughts around a fatality or an incident and things of that
Right.
nature. And so that thing has crept into the culture. And I believe the more we are focused on ourselves and focused on our own agendas and things of that nature, we miss the opportunity to see real things happen. When you think about change happening, especially with systemic issues in African American or minority communities at large, you think about the Montgomery boycott, the 1960s. You're talking about 1950s. You're talking about 368 days of
Right.
pressure, which means for 368 days, people refuse to change the subject. And I think in our modern day culture, we're so there's so much self-aggrandizement, so much self-interest that if we're not careful, we will allow the same systemic issues to remain because we ourselves got tired of applying pressure
Yeah.
to the culture. And that's the name of the game. So if we could stay on topic, right, for the first time, really begin to stay on topic, we might be able to see the beginnings of systemic issues being addressed in our culture. So that's what I was saying. I was saying it to white folks, hey, stop changing the subject,
Right.
talking about, whatever you're talking about, and black folks, y'all stay on topic as well. Because if we do that, we might be able to finally see some of our issues and some of the things we've been asking for be addressed. So that's what I was saying by staying on topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think even that kind of maybe labor into something else I'm getting ready to ask you too as well.
Mhm.
Because what we're finding is through news cycles, we're seeing a shift. And really, we always see the consistency of things evaporately changing, right? And I
Yep.
think that there are things that need to make sure that they're foundational in what we're walking in and staying true to what's foundational compared to just always going with what we see on the surface, right? So
Hmm.
what we see with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, this isn't something that just happened yesterday. This is something that has been happening. It just got caught on tape. And
Right.
so one of the things
Right.
is that staying true to it. Let me ask you this question: how is it, or how important is it? Do you think as us as leaders, especially pastoral leaders, those that are leading congregations, that we make sure that we keep these things in the forefront of our mind? Because through news cycles, they're going to try to shift people through means of social media, through how often
Hmm.
we watch TV. Things were not moving at the pace that they are now. During those days, things were moving a lot slower. The message
Sure.
was more driven harder. It was driven a lot more from the pulpit and things of that nature. So how do we make sure that we stay on task and stay on topic to make sure our people are still moving in the right direction?
Good question. I think if you really think about it in context, in the 1950s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, the black church or the church was the hub of all information. When you think about
Right,
the black church experience, right? We were the hub of all information. Your PTA meetings, your
right,
who's running for local city council, school issues, whatever. That was all addressed at the local hub, which we call the church. As
right.
time progressed, we gotten away from that. I do believe that there are those who have this perspective that the kingdom of God is all supernatural, but it is the ability to channel the supernatural into a practical demonstration, right? Because you got to live
Absolutely.
your life out in the natural. And so we acquire the supernatural to be empowered to live our life out through the natural. And I
Right.
think what's key, especially for prophetic gifts and graces and apostles, this is that we understand that the gospel message is incomplete if it does not address the issues of marginalized and oppressed people.
Yeah.
If what I'm preaching does not liberate the poor, if what I'm preaching does not liberate the oppressed, if what I'm preaching does not recover sight to the blind, Luke 4, if what I'm preaching does not preach the gospel to the poor, those who are bankrupt, if what I'm doing does not address a systemic issue or a root issue, then in fact, it is de facto not the gospel anyway. It
Right.
must, in order for it to be the gospel, the totality of that must be addressed. And I believe with all of my heart that in order for us to allow that to remain in the faces of God's people and in the hearing of God's people as pastors, prophets, evangelists, teachers, whatever your gift or grace is in a fivefold, your responsibility is to keep that ahead of them by preaching the totality of the gospel. The gospel is liberation theology
Yes.
in context. It really is. Jesus came for marginalized and oppressed people. He came
Yeah.
to push marginalized persons into the center. So why he frustrated with rich religious people, because he was looking for those who were marginalized and oppressed within that world context. And so I think that our gospel, I shouldn't say it must change, but it must be expounded. It
Yeah.
must expand into the totality of the mandate of Christ. That if it does not address the plight of the poor, and the people who are overlooked, if it does not root up and cause chaos. Watch this, even with local government, if it does not confront and it's not confrontational, is it not the gospel? And so I think it is the prophet's job to not be swinging from an elephant's trunk or dancing on top of a donkey's posterior, but
That's
be
great.
about the lamb's agenda for real. Then we could probably see our people become ignited to see real change.
Yeah, you're laboring into something right now, because I think that we've gotten so comfortable of not being confrontational. You just labored into something because of the fact that when I heard you talking, I think that the church or the fivefold gifts have lost sight of what they were anointed for. Right? Jesus said that I am anointed for the brokenhearted, right? To set the captives free. I think that our anointing has gotten off focus, and so we're just focusing on the fact of who can get this, who can get the many members, we're losing sight of what we were anointed for, which if we move in our anointing, it will cause some kind of chaos. It will cause some kind of confrontation, because if we're focusing on the things that I told my church this one time, that some of the times when I begin to focus on certain things that the Lord began to tell me to focus on, I could feel the attacks, and the attacks were totally different. Like when I started focusing on some things in our church with sex trafficking, the attacks were different. Even in my prayer closet, the attacks were different. Because the enemy saw the fact of what I'm trying to deal with is dealing with where I was really anointed for, compared to trying to do things that appease church people.
Right. That part.
So what I'm gonna ask you this question too as well, because you're laboring into something, is that do you think that because you said all of these things kind of rooted back to the church. This is where the church kind of started. We were, the PTA meetings, the hosting, because honestly, this whole Black Lives Matter movement didn't start in church.
No, not at all.
You see what I'm saying? This is the first time probably in modern history where one of these movements have not really started from a church basis or from a kingdom basis. So my thing is this: I'm gonna ask you this question: do you believe that there's been because of this, has there been a scream and a call for the church to get back to its core nature?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that Romans is right, that the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. Yeah. The scripture says, "Many are called and few are chosen." But in our context, many are called and some see an opportunity. I'll say it again. Many are called and some see an opportunity. All you have to do is discern the time, and you will see there's an opportunity for men and women to champion a cause that the church has been absent about. We've been so focused, especially in the evangelical world. I'm gonna pick on that for a little bit. We've been so focused on abortion. We've been so focused on marriage and the sanctity of marriage, and I respect both, and I believe in the tenets of both. I believe in the tenets of life, and I believe in the tenets of marriage between a man and a woman. But I also believe there's some other things that we need to champion as well. And one of those things is afterlife, after conception. What does that lifeline look like for the person who's marginalized and oppressed? It still goes back to that. I do believe that the absence of the voice of prophetic men and women of God, like Dr. King, like Medgar Evers, like Kwame Ture, and Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, even though these men's hearts
go ahead.
Even though these hearts may have been misguided to some degree, they may have been misguided, it does not change the mantle nonetheless.
That's right.
And because there are men and women of God in our churches who've been mantled for more than ushering, mantled for more than worship, we have to be able to identify that you may not serve in the traditional Sunday morning context, but what's on your life is to speak truth to power. And because we haven't found a way, God be praised, to bring those types of persons into our church context, we're losing them to the BLM understanding. We're losing them to some of the more radical expressions, when in fact the church was supposed to house all of those gifts and graces.
That's
make room for it.
That's good. I think that's the problem. I think that a lot of it is because some of these movements have moved outside, is because we have not contextualized what these people really are. Because some of these guys are prophets, but the nature is that we don't have not contextualized. They're not a prophet for the church. They're a prophet for the marketplace.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be out here doing and pushing certain agendas. But I think there's something that's happened, that those voices or our agenda has now, like you said in the beginning, we've seen our own agendas, right? We've seen our own opportunities, and we have not gotten back to the fact of what we were anointed for and what the kingdom says what we should be doing. So my question is this, and I'll keep. I want you to talk more, because my people hear me talk all the time.
No, go ahead.
No. Is the nature of what you're saying? Do you think that there is a rise or shifting? Because one of the things I had this conversation with actually a prophet at our church about the fact that God is really causing some prophets to come out into the forefront, because they really need to start announcing, and apostles to start putting these people into their rightful places. And I've been, because people are like, well, there's a lot of apostles coming out. I think it's the earth is groaning for those men and women to be revealed. So now they can put people in the right places to govern in their places they're supposed to govern.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I will ask you, like, do you see that? Like, and my question is really, are you seeing that? Do you believe that? And do you think that the church is really on a place of shifting and changing to understanding that this is the kind of things that we need to start birthing out in the spirit compared to birthing out another choir director?
Two things real quick. Crisis is a purpose manifester.
Yeah. So like
Crisis is a purpose manifester. That's what it does. It manifests purpose if you allow it. The second thing is what frustrates you, you're created to solve. I believe that with all of my heart. So what I'm sensing is God allows crisis to come. He allows panic to come. He allows a pandemic to come into our cultural expression and to unearth the purpose of God, which is revealed through the lives of people. And so I believe with all of my heart that there are men and women alike who have certain graces and mantles that are mantled for this time. As a matter of fact, when God looked at the periodic table of our lifeline, there are certain days that he dropped certain people into the world sphere for the purpose of now, knowing that they would survive long enough to this present context. And so I believe that if it frustrates you, right, then you're created to solve it. Now, here's the question. What do you do with that? And where do you get that lane of language from? Where do you get that grace and the unearthing of that revelation about you being called? How did you get that? Well, Habakkuk chapter 1 is clear. Habakkuk chapter 1 argues, he's fussing at God. And this is not preaching, this is the truth. He's arguing with God, all of chapter 1. But in chapter 2, verse 1, he gets real sarcastic. Well, I'll just stay here and wait to see what God would say, how he will prove me when he'll speak, how he'll correct me when he speaks, because he knows he's out of order. Right. But in chapter 2, verse 2, God responds to his complaining. And he doesn't say, I'm going to come and save you. He says, write the vision.
Right.
There's tension there because there's tension there. He didn't say, this is how I'm going to save you. He said, write the vision, which means what's in you for the hour that you're, what's frustrating you, you have the DNA to already solve it. I believe that in the church, there are men and women right now who have been singing, who have been leading worship, who are creatives, and they've had the statesmanship of a political analyst. They've had the statesmanship of a voice or an activist in their spirit. But now that thing is coming to fruition. And I'm seeing people create protests and having moments online where they're engaging in conversations that I thought they would never engage in. Right. But it's because crisis is a purpose manifested. So I believe right now with all of my heart that God is extracting some things out of people in this season. Now the job of the apostle and the gifts is when we get back, we got to have place for that. So while he's expanding them, he's also expanding the Desmond Wiggins. He's giving you the platform because we don't have the total answer, but we have something to share, to aid. I think Tupac said it best. He said, I don't have the answer to change the world. Pac said, but I'll spark the brain of the one that could.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. This is good. Hey, y'all, this is a what's the word I want to use right now? This is a shameful plug right now, but this is time for you to register for Converge if you have not done so, based upon what you're hearing this man of God saying right now. There is something you just labored into something, because I think that there has to be, God is really raising up, I believe, apostles to be able to put people in the right place, but also too as well. I think we've gone through a season where people have not begun to see properly. And what I mean by that is that because we haven't seen it, we haven't seen it. So the real prophets haven't been in the season for a long time to begin to really see things outside of the sphere of what we've seen. Because all we've been doing, I think, through church, from the time that Martin Luther King, through the time of the civil rights movement in the late 60s and early 70s, once he died, that voice died. And you begin to see a dying within the church concerning moving in things we have not yet seen. So we just keep moving in the same thing and just keep on duplicating ourselves and just keep on just doing the same thing and not going outside the sphere to be able to see outside of what the paradigms that we're in. And I think that what has happened over the last 40, 50 years, because we have not seen outside the paradigm, those paradigms that we were supposed to see into and move into have now shifted outside of the church. They've now come into, like you said, the Black Lives Matter movements and all that. It's not happening in the church. So I would ask you this too as well. Are we at the precipice, I think, of the kingdom ideology? Really, really, we talk about it, we preach it, but I feel like we're really coming back into that place of the church of where now we can deal with, the church can now handle the vast majority of everything that we're really anointed for, compared to saying that we just anointed for church folk and just for people to get saved.
I believe with all of my heart, that God has allowed every particular deity to be face down. Sports, face down. Music, face down. Entertainment, face down. Everything we've placed ahead of him has been face down. All of the heads of Dagon are cut off. Everything
That's
is
good.
on his face. Everything was on his face except for the church.
Wow.
The reason why that had to happen, because everything else had to shut down. Restaurants had to shut down. This had to shut down. I'm talking about in the midst of this pandemic. But the church itself took over the airwaves because we were the only thing people could point to. These are the facts. Now, with that being said, you talked about Dr. King a moment ago, and let me just address this.
Yeah.
I have tension with God in this one area, and please, y'all don't get mad at me that are listening. I have moments of intense anguish and confusion, and then peace and calm with God here.
Mm.
God knows and God allows. Those two things.
Right.
God knew and God allows.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. King, amazing prophetic voice, but God knew that this man's life would be cut short, and God allowed it to happen. John the Baptist is a prophet, the last of the old covenant prophets. Jesus even said there's no greater prophet than John the Baptist. God knew, and then God allowed for him to die. Injury, cut his head off, but it's the head. He knew it. God allowed it.
Right.
Where I see the parallels with this and throughout history and the discourse of history and time with those who are championing of people who are marginalized and oppressed, or those who have a mandate that's so great that they're disallowed to continue into the manifestation of what they were fighting for. The reason being is because God wants to raise up something greater than that. I believe that Dr. King fell asleep, but then there are others. There are others in this hour and this time that God is raising up. And I believe with all of my heart that many of them may not be pastors.
That's right.
But I do believe all of them are going to be men and women of God.
Yeah.
Because only a man and woman of God can be fearless when speaking truth to power. Only a man and woman of God could have the wisdom on how to address kings without a political bend. A true man and woman of God can speak truth to power without it being a problem from the evangelical right or the Black liberation theology left. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's this thing there. So I believe that with everything that's in me, that the church right now is really not just the answer, but it is the way to the answer. And this is why the enemy is so strategic in trying to shut us down.
Right.
And the rumor mill of how we're the number one spreader of the coronavirus and things, even though we've been closed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Because the church is the answer. But I hope I answered that correctly.
No, you did. I think that I told my church this a few weeks ago that the Lord is starting what I believe a Daniel revolution in the church. Mm-hmm. That there will be voices like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, that kind of group that will begin to now deal with and not bow down to the images of Nebuchadnezzar.
Beautiful.
Because the Bible says that they serve their gods, and he said they actually in chapter 3 it says bow down to the image or serve your gods. So there's a two different thing. I think that the church has been bound down to the image of America, but they're saying that we serve God. I think we've been dibbling dabbling, and I think that it's coming into a season where we're at right now, where there's being a shutdown of the image. No more Democrat, Republican, no more. The prophets and those that are being raised up today, they're getting in a position now to deal with the entire system.
Yeah. The church has to be delivered from the image. The church must be delivered from the image.
Absolutely.
Exodus chapter, what is it? Exodus. The children of Israel with God, away from Moses, and they get to the priest Aaron, and they say, "Make us a calf. We want this image. We want this image."
Go ahead.
32, right? Yeah, they want the image, and this image is in result of the fact that Moses is not there. When the prophet's not around, when the prophet's not in place, even though he went to go hear from God, it was just that period in time of quietness there
Yeah.
that created them. And I think many of us, in the absence of prophets who hear from God and lead God's people, we had errands, people we could tell what to do.
Right.
And it's created traditions of men. It's created the yeah, the arguments over doctrine.
Yeah.
It's created how style of worship. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we've hired men and women of God that we can tell what to do, and they did it to keep those numbers high and to
Wow.
keep the people at peace. That thing is
Wow.
coming down. I agree with you 1,000%. That thing is coming down. It's
So
already down. I mean, every mega house is right now.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's crazy what you're saying, because that's the only way the enemy can cause any kind of area, because we're not victorious. But if I can create confusion within the camp, if I can
Exactly.
choose what you decide to talk about, then I'll determine what you usher in. So if your
Right.
voices is not echoing for those outside and those that are less fortunate and those that are disenfranchised, if your voice is only echoing about each other's doctrines and all that kind of stuff, then there cannot be no ushering into what is the next season for the church.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I'll leave you with this, because I know I'm not going to hold you long. But I'll ask you this question. What do you feel, even what we're seeing right now through, like I said, the protests, what's
Yes.
happening in America,
Yes.
through COVID, all those things are now. What do you believe really is the next move for the church, and what do you think God's getting ready to do concerning it?
Whoo, my God, that's a loaded question, man. That's a loaded question. It's a loaded question because it really it depends on which side of the pendulum you we talk. It depends on where you are. Man, that's a good question. I really believe that what we've always seen, we will never see again.
Absolutely.
That I believe. What we've always seen, we would never see again. And so I think to some degree, the Father is not revealing what's on the other side of this. And I think that again is part of tearing down the imagery of what we assumed on God for so many years. I really believe that not just a small grouping of churches, but I also believe that great ownership will come to the church after this.
I hear you.
I see collaborations happening that have never happened before. Of course, there'll be the merging of different houses. One of my good friends, Pastor YPJ, one of my best friends, had a prophetic word that he released in the 31st of. You saw that?
I saw that.
It rightly spoke to you right now.
Yes, it
And
did.
it did. And so I believe prophetically that a lot of what I've heard from prophets that have been the same resounding tone has that there'll be a lot of merging, a lot of coming together, but there'll be a collapse of, you use the word image, but a collapse of the personality style of worship. What I do sense is God is bringing the church to the end of itself.
That's good. Oh, I understand what you're saying.
And you can feel the groanings of it happening within us. What we have taken advantage of and taken for granted as it pertains to when we worship, coming to worship, the fellowshipping of the saints, people are mourning. They're mourning it. And I think it's a good opportunity to put us in alignment with how we should have been toward one another.
That's good.
And before we can actually reemerge in totality, I think we will be convinced that our trust is in Him and not a vaccine, that our trust is in Him and not a police union, that our trust is in Him and not in racial whatever. You know what I mean? And so I really feel with all of my heart that that we're coming into a place of, when I said ownership earlier, I mean, I believe there'll be things abandoned. I believe that there'll be buildings and businesses that collapse.
Yeah.
And there'll be plenty of land and plenty of opportunity for churches to do exactly what the kingdom model looks like. I believe ownership is coming to us. But I just don't believe that we'll see ministry the way we always saw it. I'm not talking about the technology. I'm talking about the framework, the mindset that we once had about it. I believe that's going to completely shift. And it has to, because whatever ceases to change will eventually disappear. If you don't change, you'll disappear. And I believe that in this transition, in this moment of confrontation with the Spirit of God, I believe that that what's going to emerge from this will not be necessarily bigger than what we've saw, but it will be more authentic and better than what we've experienced.
That's good.
And the pangs of this, the labor, the challenge, the sorrow of this season, right, will become a joyous moment in the seasons to come. What you're giving your children will be better than what you received. I do believe. I think the house is about to get healthy. That's what I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. When you were talking, man, I heard the word extinction. Some of the stuff is coming
Yeah.
to extinct, man, literally. And I'm excited for the change, man. But look, I'm not gonna hold you tonight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it out there again, y'all. If you have not registered for Converge, okay, this is one of the voices that are gonna be teaching on Saturday doing Converge. Okay, that's in September. Apostle Kevin Duhart, listen, man, I thank you for your time.
My pleasure, man.
I'll wrap it up, man. I know you got some things to do, man, tonight. So we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Don't forget about Friday and Saturday, and we'll see you guys then. Okay, take care and have a good night.
All right. Take care, man. You just jump right in the camera.